I'm not talking to you until we're recording. Too much talking before the podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Roll On, where Mr. Adam Skolnick and I are back in the lime green chairs to banter across this absurdly long table. What are we going to do today, Adam? You know what? Before we even get into anything, I'm going to say straight up, I'm underprepared for today.
You are?
Yeah. It's an experiment.
Well, I think
I've generally overprepared for these roll-ons, and then I end up looking at my iPad the whole time instead of making eye contact with you.
Let's do a segment where it's called uncomfortable eye contact. And
I'm an expert at that.
We just can't look away. It's called the uncomfortable.
This will create an exceptional listener experience.
Yes. You don't have to speak. You just look at each other.
Yeah. Great pod.
Great pod.
Good. Awesome, dude. What are we going to do today? Well, we're going to celebrate a couple milestones.
Yeah.
Probably get a little bit random here and there. Less focus on newsy type stuff. That was the result of a creative meeting we had. We'll see how that goes.
Is that
more on
that real?
Well, I'm the executive producer here.
You are.
So I'm making that executive decision. Yeah, I don't know. Do people really want us delving into the headlines?
Some people do.
Maybe. Some. Is some enough? I think more on the life lesson-y type shit.
I like that.
That's what we're going to focus on today. Of course, we're going to answer a few listener questions and then call it a day, bro.
Nice.
Because it's raining out and we have other stuff to do.
You might.
Yeah. Well, you got a few things going on. Why don't you check in? But actually, before you do that,
yeah,
I want to make a little bit of a request or an ask to the listeners and the viewers. For longtime fans of the show, you know that last year around the holiday season, we did this special episode around listener stories where people called in. They shared their experience of the podcast, how it has sort of benefited their lives and some storytelling around that. And so we're going to reprise that episode. It was really special. It was very cool. And if you would like your experience or your story considered for inclusion in this episode, leave us an extended voicemail at 805-421-0057. That's 805-421-0057. Last year, this was really meaningful to us, and I think also to you guys, the audience. Everybody who listened and reached out seemed to really enjoy it, so we're excited to do it again. We've already gotten a huge response, but obviously we can always use more. So if you missed it last time, because we haven't been doing that many roll-ons, get on it. So last time, and I'll include this in the show notes as well, of course, the number is 805-421-0057.
Love it.
Yeah, man. So how you doing? What's happening?
Well, I've just started my new business. I don't want to, it's not launching just yet, but because we just hit this inclement weather season is upon us, but we're excited to debut it next spring.
65.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
It's my new Instagram picnic collab with LeBron James.
Okay.
Yeah, LeBron and I have been working on our driftwood shelters and our wildflower wreaths, and we're gonna have romantic picnics available for anybody who wants to, pay the price tag.
Right. To join the two of you.
No, we're the ones that put on. We cater. He's quite the patisserie. I mean, I don't know if you knew that.
I'm sure there's a joke in here somewhere that I don't get because maybe I don't follow basketball enough. No. Explain.
You know these picnic collabs? Don't you see these? Don't you see these Instagram picnics around the beaches?
No.
You've never seen one?
I'm 56 years old, Adam. I am not in that silo of Instagram or whatever it is. There's there's a weird thing where people share picnic photos. I'm confused.
Yes, there's romantic. There's a thing. It's a pandemic business that popped up, and there are there's Instagram picnics. You pay, and someone has created a habitat for you to enjoy a nice romantic meal on the beach.
Uh-huh.
And then you take the photos and you're like sipping whatever and eating your fine food.
Do they take the
And it's
photos
catered.
of you for you?
I haven't gotten that
Does
far.
that include uploading them for you as well?
I think you probably upload yourself.
And where does LeBron come into this? I
pitched him the idea, and he was over at Ben and Jerry's the other day.
Right.
And so,
dropping in.
yeah. And so while I was there, he thought that I had a genius idea, and he's a businessman. So
right.
I pitched him.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe,
I'm hoping to get him.
Maybe
I might be premature.
Maybe
with announcing.
table this one.
You don't
now.
like this one?
Yeah. No.
All right.
Go back to scooping the cream.
That's it.
You can indulge the dream. That dream is not the dream.
I'm a
though.
lifetime scooper.
But with your feet firmly planted on the ground
Yes.
and back to a three-dimensional reality,
Yes.
you do actually have some pretty exciting news.
I do. So on December 6th, the sequel to David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, his second book, is launching. It's called Never Finished, and it is finally finished. There were times there we wondered if
there's
Never
a little
Finished
irony in there.
for a while.
Yeah.
We had we worked really hard on it, man. We worked on it for about a year and a half, and then obviously it encapsulates not just this, but the last 4 years, how he's his life over the last 4 years, plus stories and episodes from his past life. So in that way, it's almost like shades of Sedaris at this point, like or Sedaris, I should say.
David Sedaris?
Sedaris, yeah. And how he can unpack his life and
right.
and deliver it. David is
the comparison ends there though. Like I can't think of two people less alike than David Sedaris and David Goggins.
But in a way they aren't, because I don't know if you knew this about David Sedaris. He is like a psycho with his steps, and he
collects trash for 8 hours a day.
30,000 steps.
Yeah.
So, but my point is that he's got this corner of the literary world now that is really about. It's his memoir. It's his life that he can continually unpack and shape and entertain, as well as educate readers and listeners. And so it's kind of like, I'm just trying to figure out how you compare it, because there's nobody that's doing that. And so it's like shades of that, and then also meets kind of the Last American Samurai kind of book of philosophy. It's like Goggins Graduate School. So if you loved Can't Hurt Me, this is like his true philosophy. That's how he describes it. Can't Hurt Me is like Rocky. This is kind of like how he actually does it.
Right.
And it's the same kind of concept. It's like, it's stories from his life in chapters. That's the main story. And, how he's dealt with the ups and downs the last 4 years and where he's going. And I think people will be very surprised and impressed. And then in between that, instead of challenges, there's evolutions. And so it's all about kind of evolving and these life lessons that he's learned throughout his life and kind of uses today. So that's it. It's the audiobook, once again, is we do the chapter, we do an evolution, we talk, unpack it further.
Right. And do you read the chapters like you did last time?
I am the narrator in the chapters,
wow.
and then we talk in between. Goggins has a bit of narration as well, and then it's just incredible. So all of that's happening. It's spectacular. Really honored to have been a part of it. We're really excited about it. And so we'll see what happens. We got some competition in Prince Harry.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama again, but we'll see.
Oh, is Michelle Obama coming out with a book again at the same time that
3 weeks earlier again?
Tete-a-tete with Michelle once again. Very interesting. Well, I know that you've been working on this book very hard for a very long time, and we've been cagey about it on the show. You'd come in and you'd say, well, I'm deep in this project, but you couldn't really talk about what it was. So, obviously you've shared a little bit more with me about what you've been doing behind the scenes. And this is certainly a long time coming, super exciting. Clearly there's a massive audience who is anticipating, what this next book is going to be. I did see David's announcement on Instagram where he published that little video, and he told this story about, how people's second books usually suck, or that's what he was told.
Yeah.
And how he shared this book with some trusted advisors and friends, and they were all amazed that this one is actually better than the second one. The first one was sort of a teaser. He was playing it a little bit on the surface because he didn't want to go too far because people might not be able to handle like the full 100% Goggins. And once he realized like, oh, I tested this, there is an audience and an appetite for what I have to say. Now he can go deep, and is seemingly very encouraged by this book that you guys worked hand in hand on. And that is crazy exciting. So, soon he's going to be everywhere, I'm sure. And let's Also, let's not forget, once again, self-publishing, right?
Like self-publishing.
They should be teaching his model at Harvard Business School. Like what he's done as a self-published author is completely unprecedented.
We think, I mean, the words I've heard is that it nonfiction, it's the biggest self-published book ever. I'm not sure if that's true because I haven't looked at the numbers myself. Over 4 million now. It's like going.
And does that include audio, or is that
includes everything? That includes audio.
And what is the percentage? I would think audio might be like. It's probably
over half.
Usually like 40, but it's got to be over half.
Yeah, I think I don't exactly have the number. I think it's like 60. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And but that, he's been a product of the audio space, like that's like in terms of how he kind of got his fan base. I mean, that's how it happened. So it's not surprising. I think he set the standard to try to exceed Can't Hurt Me, not in terms of sales, but just in terms of quality of the book. It's never been about sales, because if he wanted to do sales, he could have put a book out 2 years ago. And it's never been about that. It's delivering something to the reader and having the reader in mind and having something, it's very much about thinking of how the reader is going to come out of the experience of this book. And I think that's special, and it's challenging. And when he first said, he wants it to be better than Can't Hurt Me, I thought, wow, I mean, I didn't think that was a reasonable goal, to be honest with you. But he's not about reasonable goals, and he tends to exceed the unreasonable goals. So, so I believe
that must have been daunting from your perspective entering into that with that objective.
Well, it was to look. So the way I try to make writing as easy as possible for me. So I try not to actually think about the end game, because all I can do is the process of it and make it the best it can possibly be. I didn't think we'd get there. But now we'll see how people respond to it. I love this book. There was so much love put into it. When people, I can't wait to talk about it more, like when the book is out and we can talk about it more. But like, what he has done and achieved, some of the most incredible athletic accomplishments I've ever heard of, how he's dedicated his life in the direction it is now. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, and it's just another level. And there's lessons on leadership, there's lessons on day-to-day living, there's lessons on how to kind of overcome obstacles from being at the bottom of the barrel, of course. There's darker stories than I think. Even some are darker than you've heard and Can't Hurt Me. So just to be a part of it was a thrill for me, and I learned a lot from it. And I can say I feel like I'm a better writer for having done it. So all of those things make me really excited to share this.
Yeah. Super exciting, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm proud of you. It's great. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for David.
Thank you.
And it's a powerful message that clearly resonates with a lot of people and needs to be more broadly, amplified to the culture. So
no doubt. I mean, I think that the lessons in here, you remember, like the last 4 years. So we're talking about the pandemic. We're talking about X, Y, Z. So like a lot. We don't dwell on any one thing like that, but there is, Goggins will explain how he dealt with it in his own way.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah. So again, the date that it comes out is December
6th.
So we'll put a link in the show notes, pre-order it. All that good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited and look forward to hearing how people respond to it. And thank you to all the Goggins fans and Rich Roll fans who are on the train with us.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
You got recognized up in Big Sur.
It happens every once in a while.
I love that when that happens for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's cool. Fun. I don't know I don't know where to put my hands.
You don't know where to put
I keep them myself.
Put them on the phone for the selfie.
There
you go, right?
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
How are you, man? What's going on? I know you were you were in the pits at the F1.
Yeah, I had an exciting experience in Austin a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot going on. Julie's in Egypt right now. I think she's got another 5 days there. She's been gone like 2 weeks or something, like almost 2 weeks. She's hosting a retreat there and is having an amazing experience. But so I'm kind of at home with all the kids and being a homebody at the moment. But I did take Tyler and Trapper, the boys, to Austin for our first inaugural Formula One experience at the Austin GP.
Was it like a happy birthday to me type trip kind of thing?
Yeah, it was my birthday.
Right.
So we flew on my birthday, which was October 20th. I turned 56.
Happy birthday.
Have some thoughts on that as well. And I thought a little boys trip could be fun. The boys are super fans. I had always found Formula One to be kind of an impenetrable, sort of sport.
Right.
Like I knew about Schumacher and how he got paid a lot of money, and clearly this is a big deal in Europe. But to me, it was sort of like football, soccer. Like I didn't really know that much about it, other than that there was a massive fan base, and those people are extremely passionate about it. And then Drive to Survive, the Netflix series, occurred, and I was all in on that. Like I found that series to be incredibly captivating and created this emotional connectivity with all of the different characters and gave me just enough information to understand on a very base level what was occurring. It's very surface level, that series. But
is that how the boys got into it? Like by watching
they
that
were
series?
already kind of into it, and that kind of deepened the connection. But they're so into it now, they subscribe to the streaming service, and they get up in the middle of the night to watch the races that are in Europe. Like they follow it very intensely, much more so than me.
Right.
But I'm up to speed enough where I would consider myself a fan, and I thought it would be really fun. So we went and we bought general admission tickets, but I knew a few people, and I was like, I don't know if we can kind of, finagle here. But I've had sort of an internet friendship with Angela Cullen, who's Lewis Hamilton's performance coach for a number of years. And she invited us to come to the paddock on Friday, which is practice day, and she got us into the Mercedes garage and gave us a tour, which was like unbelievable.
Amazing.
We met Lewis briefly, got to check out engineering and really observe the mechanics and the engineers and how they work together. Got to meet Toto Wolff, who's the team director. Met Lewis very briefly. Brad Pitt was around with Jerry Bruckheimer. They're having meetings about the Formula One movie. Like it was crazy.
When is that happening?
They're going to be shooting it next year, and they're going to be shooting parts of it at the races. I think next year there's going to be a race in Las Vegas, and they're going to shoot at that race. So that was cool. Like Lewis Hamilton is a producer on that movie. Tim Cook was at the race because Apple TV is financing the project. So there's a lot of like interesting characters walking around. And once you're kind of in the paddock, it's sort of this VIP kind of red carpet experience where you can mingle around. And the garages are all in a line, and they have hospitality suites on the opposite side of each of the garages. And people are just kind of going in and out of these all day, including journalists and team directors and, drivers and crew and all that kind of stuff. And it was just amazing to be a fly on the wall and observe all of that, and to be privileged enough to be in the garage and kind of not only watch them assembling the car and taking the undercarriage off and putting it back on and having somebody explain to us why that's important and what goes into the science and the engineering of that. And then to have Angela gave us headphones, and we were able to hear the drivers communicating with engineering, giving feedback while they were doing practice laps, which was like crazy.
Amazing.
Like the amount of science, engineering, teamwork, communication that goes into Formula One is like beyond. And then shout out to my new friend, Sean Doss, who is an endurance athlete who's coached by Chris Houth. He ran Marathon des Sables and is a sport agent. He's a sports agent out of London. And one of his big clients is F1, and he's in charge of this hospitality experience that they are curating and creating at Formula One. And he was able to get us paddock passes on Saturday and Sunday to watch the race and kind of commingle around what was going on there. And he was a new friend. Like we went in expecting nothing, and we ended up with like the most privileged experience you could possibly imagine, which was pretty cool. And it was fun to see some other friends there. Dan Churchill was there, who's a podcaster, a friend of mine, New York City restaurateur, has a restaurant called Charlie Street. And he was doing some food and beverage stuff for Sean at that hospitality suite. And Mike Gervais was there. It was cool to see him, some other folks, and just really kind of enjoy the race from a beginner's mind perspective. And it, like, sort of reflecting upon that experience there's some interesting kind of takeaways other than just like me sharing this fun birthday weekend. It left me thinking a lot about the genius myth. And the genius myth is something that I've also been thinking a lot about because I just saw the movie Tar, which is all about the genius myth. I don't want to spoil that movie. It's certainly an Oscar contending motion picture. Please go check it out if you haven't seen it already. It stars Cate Blanchett as this heralded maestro, this conductor, like the greatest music conductor, living music conductor, who's very celebrated, conducting the Berlin Symphony. And it's a story about her life, fictional character. But it really upends this genius myth in that we as a country sort of like to hoist up these incredible high performers and delude ourselves into believing that they are outliers that are able to kind of do what they do in isolation, right? And the truth of the matter is, whether you're conducting a symphony or you're driving a Formula One car, you are supported by gigantic teams of people who work very diligently and hard to make you look like a genius. And when you're in the garage of Formula One and you just see dozens and dozens of people, and then you're in engineering and all these people on laptops running diagnostics, and the hundreds of people who are back at the headquarters for the team who are working on the car and improving the car and communicating with the engineers and the mechanics, like, it's insane how many cooks are in that kitchen and the kind of flow of communication that is required in order for that driver to sit in that car and perform at the highest level. We all see the pits where they come in and the pit crews who operate so flawlessly and sort of magnificently, but behind them are all these other people who are kind of doing the same thing in a way that's a little bit less sexy or romantic and
or
just
accessible.
Yeah, accessible, right? And I was like able to watch this, and I was like, my head was exploding, right?
Yeah.
And then seeing Tar, and it's really about the same thing, like all of these wonderful symphony musicians that support the conductor and make the conductor look good, and all the behind the scenes kind of stuff that goes into, creating the quote unquote genius, and then the kind of narrative spooling that the quote unquote genius does themselves to brand build and create that idea that they are a genius. And then to kind of upend that and deconstruct that and realize, like, it's not to say that there aren't extremely talented, gifted people, but nobody excels or sort of excels at the highest level, at the elite level in anything without an unbelievable foundation of support from lots of people who are not in the spotlight. And that goes for this podcast and everything that I've achieved. I think you would probably concur. So I've just been thinking, kind of a lot about that subject matter.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we're all, the interconnection just doesn't go away. Even if you're involved in a project of like you're writing and you're tapping away, even if it's a project of my own, you're still dependent. Even if you're just reporting a story from New York, you're dependent on sources, you're dependent on editors, you're dependent on an operation that keeps a publication alive. You're always just tapping into some sort of part of the interconnected matrix in some way. And now, in some places you can see it much more easily. I mean, the fact that the conductors are like considered the genius is pretty funny in that, because they're not actually playing the music. And like,
but they're interpreting the music. They're making choices about how that music is expressed.
And they're arranging. Yeah. And they're seeing things you don't necessarily see. So you need those kinds of soothsayers. I mean, we have them. We have kind of the curse of the genius now. Like, we're seeing the dark side of genius.
A little bit.
It's kind of our era now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I don't want to go down that sewage drain hole at the moment. But I will say that I think there's something inherently American about the whole idea as well, because this is a country that's built on this notion of rugged individualism, and we prioritize individual success and excellence over the kind of collective, the collective success of the whole. And we love those stories. And even if we can poke holes in them and say, yeah, well, that person did that, but like if you take we could take Elon Musk and say, well, he's a self-made man. But if you really rigorously analyze that, you do realize that it is a myth in many ways. Like he had help from lots of people, and some of the stuff about the way that Tesla came together. He wasn't a founder of Tesla. Like there's a lot of things about that where you realize like, oh, he has worked with teams of people and benefited from that, and has been a builder of teams or whatever. But the idea that the sole genius idea is never truly meets rough scrutiny, like hard scrutiny.
Right. The idea of the rugged individualist bootstrapper, you have the vision, you can make it happen kind of thing.
But in America, we love that, and we don't want to hear differently.
It's almost like it's part of the fabric, and it came out of maybe, I don't know, the birth of the country, where the first settlers who moved here were like, felt kind of cloistered, and there was too many laws and too much law and order in England, and a king, and it tells you what to do. And here you can just visualize
go do if you want to do it.
And that lasted. Of course, that was never 100% true, because there were people that were enslaved here pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then there were Native American people who were here that didn't get quite a voice to do as they wanted.
But this notion of manifest destiny and the kind of Mark Twain idea of like lighting out on the frontier and all of that is like inherently American.
Yeah. And because of that, I think that's in there. And there is that goes to why we're so obsessed with kind of like, people are obsessed with individual freedoms, why like some people were really offended by the mask thing or the vaccine recommendation. Other people were
any inroad on individual liberty is seen as a transgression,
right?
And it's not responsibly calibrated against our responsibility to the collective. Like I talked about this with Ryan Holiday on the podcast, and I shared a reel where he articulated that notion very concisely, and it was met with not derision, but I would say controversy. Like people don't like to hear that, but your liberty is only as valuable as the responsibility with which it is, with which it's sort of packed in with, right? Like,
well, April says it all the time. Coming from Australia, where there is a sense of collectivity, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who chafe against restrictions and aren't interested in individual freedom anywhere. I mean, there was people rebelling against restrictions.
Well, historically, we've had that, like during periods of duress, for this country, whether it's World War II or whatever, where we've endured, a kind of a communal, stressful experience for the nation. We've been able to cohere and come together and recognize that level of shared responsibility to each other. But that seems to be like something bygone. Like I'm not sure that we could recapture that.
Well, I mean, but there, like, if you go to Australia and you rent a car and cruise around, you'll notice if you're the American, you're the one speeding. Like there's things like there's rules that are adhered to in a much more kind of communal way than we have here. I'm not saying that's better or worse. I'm just pointing it out. And so she sees that, like, people speeding or breaking the driving rules. Like we just take that as, okay, yeah, why not go a little faster? It's fine. It's not that way there. People are just more ingrained to the collective over there. That's just the way it is in the majority.
Right.
And it's interesting. I was thinking, same thing with people who are interested, I saw Teddy McDonald the other day. He's now spending his family's moved to Austin. He comes back and forth. And he was saying he met up with someone who's from San Diego and was so loving Texas because you can open carry there. And I thought, a good solution to the open carry. I'm not saying we shouldn't open carry if you want to open carry and that's your state. What I'm saying is you have to commute by horse.
Well, if you're a strict constructionist, Adam,
they'd be commuting by horse.
That would be construed as an impediment on the expression of your right to bear arms.
What about spurs? Can they wear spurs in their Honda Civic so that when they get out, I just want to hear them
Can
coming.
they, or do they have to?
They have to.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
It's not going to work.
We're not going there?
No.
I got to see Tar. It's at the top of my list. I think
Tar is amazing.
Kate Blanchett is like,
I mean, she's
the top of the game.
She's going to win the Oscar for that movie. Like her performance is just luminescent. It's
always.
It's quite an extraordinary movie. It's probably different than what you might expect. I don't know what people.
It's a cancel culture movie, isn't it?
Well, there's an aspect of that. I wouldn't say it's a movie about cancel culture.
Okay.
There is, sort of a component to the narrative that entails, that kind of experience. I don't want to spoil it beyond that. But the other movie I would recommend, and I don't know why I'm recommending it because I haven't seen it yet.
That's what we do in the internet.
Because I've done some reading around it. This is bad, right? I'm going to talk about a movie I haven't seen.
This goes right into a future subject.
I'm only going to say positive things though. Banshees of Inisherin, which I know you're excited to
I'm very
see.
excited.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love McDonough? This guy's a genius.
Yes.
If you've seen In Bruges, I know that's one of your favorite movies
In
ever.
Bruges, yeah.
He's pairing these two guys again together, Colin Farrell and what's his name again? What's
Colm?
Not Colm. Not Colm Meaney.
No.
Look that up, somebody on IMDb.
Yeah, and then we'll cut it in.
Yeah, exactly. I feel terrible. I can't remember his name. But anyway, I do know, and I don't want to spoil this, even though I haven't seen it. I know that one of the themes it's basically about a fractured lifelong friendship where one guy is sort of a happy-go-lucky dude played by Colin Farrell, and the other gentleman,
Brendan Gleeson.
Yes, thank you. Has decided that he wants his life to be about something more meaningful and can't hang out with Colin anymore. And he's going to devote his life to his art, which is music, right?
Right.
And so it's the theme being the split within all of us about what it means to live a good life. What is a life well lived? Is a life well lived one that is devoted completely? I'm sure McDonough struggles with this in his own mind. Should I just devote myself to my work and my legacy and these plays and these movies and these screenplays that will live beyond me after I die and just put all of my best energy into that? Or should I be the guy who goes to the pub at 2:00 every day and has a laugh with his buddies and goes home feeling connected to his community? What is if you're just going to create a binary around those two things, where do you devote your time and your energy? And this is a movie that I believe, from what I understand, grapples with this and is about that struggle that I think is very relatable. We all think about that sometimes. Should I just if you think life is relatively meaningless, then you should just fuck off and try to have as much fun as possible. And not stress about too much.
Well,
or if you take yourself seriously, or you're buying into this genius myth, or you think that you're here for some kind of purpose, then you should be, at the expense of community, friendship, love, family, relationships, be investing all of your creative juices into your work product while your brain is capable of doing that.
It makes me think two things. First of all, Ernest Hemingway used to write from 5 a.m. to noon and was at the bar every day. Every day.
Yeah.
So he figured
probably
it out.
The bar a little
bit
too much.
Of a legacy.
Yeah. Well, and also all of that other stuff was part of his writing. He merged those two experiences.
I do relate to that because I think life is seasonal, right? There's these seasons that you have. And I just look at it that way, more of a continuum of seasons. And it's I have another book I could add to this pile in my car. It's a Buddhist kind of every day read a passage type thing. And one of them that really stuck with me because of the season I'm in is that life is basically in seasons. Sometimes you're going to be free to go diving with your homies every day. And sometimes you have to sit in an office and stare at your computer, and then you have to be kind of committed to your family, and you're growing a kid, and you're watching him grow and enjoying that. And there are restrictions on the seasonality, and within those restrictions and tensions, genius comes through. So when you have too much time, and so I think that I shouldn't have used the word genius, but moments of transcendence come through. So there could be moments of transcendence in the wide open escape. And there could be moments of transcendence within the seasonal pressures that you're under. And you can't access everything all at once. Life is just not like that. So the more we can embrace the conditions that we're in is probably better. And, I can't wait to watch this movie because In Bruges is, one of the best written movies of all time. It's maybe the best written comedy I've seen in, I don't know, who knows how long, maybe ever. But I can't wait to see how Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell go back and forth where his one buddy has decided, no, I'm a musician now. Go fuck yourself. Yeah. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah,
but I do understand that.
Colin Farrell's just confusion over his buddy's sudden, decision.
I understand the pulling back. I've done it in different ways over the course of my life. It's not always a great idea because in the end, that interconnectedness exists, and we do need all these different kind of support systems. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait to see how it plays out. I just hope there's an evil Ralph Fiennes in there.
I don't know if he shows up.
No, not this time. Not this time.
Yeah. All right. Well,
what do you think to that?
I have some more thoughts, and it kind of dovetails into turning 56 and having this birthday. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with some more thoughts.
All right.
Prophets walk among us. As a writer and podcaster for nearly 10 years, I've become more convinced than ever that our world is populated by scores of beautiful and brilliant people who have amazing stories to share. Those that we don't know, who can teach us something new and leave us all the better for the experience of their sharing. And so I've dedicated my career to tracking down the most compelling prophets on the planet, going deep with each of them on my podcast to elucidate the best of what they have to offer and to sharing the insights gleaned for the benefit of all. But the podcast is not the only medium by which to share their stories, which is why I'm proud to announce the release of my new book, Voicing Change Volume 2. More than mere words on paper, Voicing Change is a physical manifestation of the magic, inspiration, and timeless wisdom that transpires each week on the Rich Roll Podcast. The first edition of Voicing Change was a beautifully rendered book worthy of display on any coffee table. And Volume 2 follows in that tradition by showcasing even more of my favorite conversations in an elegant publication replete with interview excerpts, essays, and stunning photography, making for an exquisite companion to the first volume or a satisfying standalone work. Picking up this book allows you to revisit the wisdom of your favorite everyday prophets and physically interact with the life-changing ideas contained within. Voicing Change Volume 2, available now while supplies last for a limited time. Order your copy today only at richroll.com. And we're back. I do want to share one thing before we get into sort of reflections on getting older. And that is that
welcome to the Getting Older podcast.
We're just going to get grizzled and gray and
wait till you guys hear
gnash our teeth about the young people.
Yes, you can hear a foot story coming up, which is very exciting.
Speaking of exciting, should we talk about Fuzzbubble?
Fuzzbubble.
So Jason Camiolo, longtime audio engineer / producer, sitting right over there. Right,
he's the heavy around here.
He came up in a band called Fuzzbubble. They had their moment of fame back on MTV on P. Diddy's label. Jason ended up, kind of moving in a different direction with his life after that experience. But Fuzzbubble is getting back together, and they are going on tour, which I'm super excited for.
And they got an album coming out. When's the album coming out?
Yeah, where is the
20th?
The 20th of November, Fuzzbubble's new record.
Is that going to be on Spotify right? and all that kind of stuff?
Everywhere, all the places.
What's the album title called?
Cult Stars from Mars.
I love
Cult Stars from Mars.
I love that album title.
Excellent. And you're going to be playing Huntington, New York on November 19th.
Correct.
Any other shows or just that one show?
New York on the 18th.
18th and all right, cool. So we'll link up.
All right,
that.
thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Never too late for the dream, bro.
Yeah.
No, man, you got to keep it going, right? You got to do what you love.
Exactly. So here we are. I turned 56. That's fucking old, no matter how you slice it.
Is that why
the gray is coming in hot?
Is
What's
that a cardigan?
Yes. Is this what older gentlemen wear?
I'm wearing a kind of like a cardigan-esque thing.
A little bit. And it's had me kind of, reflecting on getting older.
That's old. You're like, that's old, bro.
Yeah, it is old. I'm closer to 60 now than I am to 50.
You are.
That's fucking crazy, right? And it's inescapable because now when I look in the mirror, I'm like, damn, that gray hair, it's all over the place.
Are you kidding me? You look
now.
Fabulous.
No, it's really coming in hot.
You know what, though?
And,
you know what? Can I stop you right there? From the chest down, Steve Martin. Just pure Steve Martin from the chest down over here.
Just all white, you mean? You're talking about you.
Just coming in.
Talking about you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Go on.
You have a lot of dark hair in your beard still. My beard's basically entirely white.
I'm like Santa Claus.
I do feel, I don't know what you're supposed to feel like at 56. I do feel physically quite good. I have a lot of energy. And I want to be able to channel that energy in productive, positive, fun, community building ways while I can. I had a great time at this Formula One experience, and it was great to be around a lot of people that was different from me. Like, I'm kind of this lone wolf guy who just kind of does his own thing. And I'm having serious FOMO about the New York City Marathon, which was yesterday. We were recording this on Monday. It was on Sunday. Had tons of friends participating in that race. I know you were in Malibu, and April ran the half marathon. Congrats to April.
Yeah.
Ted McDonald was down there as well.
Yeah, they both finished really fast. Teddy was like 130 something, and April was 143. And I couldn't do it. I was signed up for that race, and because I'm also getting older, I'm 50. I tore my post-tibial tendon in training. And it was like a slow unwinding of a rubber band in the middle of my foot. It felt like a cramp in the connective tissue with that little. And I ran home. It was like a 1.5 mile run home, and I'm like, that's not good. And I waited like a week, and finally went to the doctor. Had the MRI. My foot's been fucked up for a long time, so it's probably heading that way. But I couldn't do it, so I'm like, I ended up getting PRP injections. I'm going to get some more. Hopefully, no surgery. But I couldn't run it. So I know the feeling. I wanted to do it, man. I was like, my body wanted to do it. I was there.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can run in these hiking boots.
No, that would not have been smart. But I had the same feeling about New York City. I wanted to run that race. My back issues prevented me from training for it. And then I had to kind of watch it on Instagram, watching, Alexi Pappas and Shalane Flanagan. Oh, so many podcast guests like Alexi Pappas, Shalane Flanagan. Hella was there kind of covering it. And he like, I think a day or two before the marathon was his 2000th day in a row of running on his run streak. And his shoe sponsor, Hoka, gifted him with like this golden shoe, like a trophy. And he had a big group of people that he was running with. Casey Neistat ran. So that's the latest podcast that just went up with Casey. We recorded that last summer. Davey running 350.
Amazing.
He's not here today because he's still in New York City. Shout out to Davey. William Googe, he was out at the house the other week. Yeah, he was in LA for a couple of days and came out.
He's a stud.
O's running 240. I mean, come on.
O's told me that was what he was hoping. That's what was his goal, was 240, but he felt like he has more to give, and he's like he inspired him to get after it even harder. That's what he told me.
This guy is unbelievable. And he blew up. He had this big viral moment from being with the Seahawks. Did you see that?
Well, no, I didn't. I haven't seen the Seahawks one yet, and there's the Tampa Bay one too, right?
Well, the Seahawks one was huge. So there's all this video of him. It's Pete Carroll, and he's with the Seahawks team, and he's doing what he does, and he guesses like the security code to one of the guy's phones. So he can unlock the guy, and these guys are like pissed. They're like, they can't believe it, right? And that video, like ESPN shared the video, Barstool Sports shared it,
amazing.
Like. Dave Portnoy wrote a blog post about it. So like suddenly O's was in a different like stratosphere of kind of recognizability. And then, just relentlessly like goes from one thing to the next, throws down a 240.
Yeah, as if it's nothing.
A casual 240 at the New York City Marathon. Robbie Ballinger was there. Again, my boy.
Did they all run it?
Churchill, Des Linden was leading the race.
Okay.
Like tons of people ran it. And I was like, fuck,
I didn't know Robbie ran it for some reason.
He showed up, with his wife and ran it with her.
Amazing.
So anyway, it looked like a lot of fun. And
incredible.
I was like, never again. Like whatever I have to do to get my back correct to get back into it. Like I want to be there next year for sure.
That's your goal?
Just to have fun. Goal? Like not to like, my goal is really to be pain-free and to be fit and solid enough so that on any given day, I can go out and run a marathon or ride a century or do a swim run or do something and just have fun with it. Like, not to be like rubber banding in and out of shape and all that kind of stuff, but just to be in like a constant state of fitness, preparedness, and readiness to be able to go have fun experiences with other people.
Yeah.
Like that's a big goal of mine for the next year.
Yeah, I have the same goal, is to like get more full body. Goggins has ordered me into the gym. And so to lift weights and just to get more, he thinks that my problem was 100-mile months, 3 months in a row without, like, I'm just wonky. And so it wasn't really ideal for me. And I should have topped out at 80-mile weeks during that period. And I probably would have made it to the race day. And just by doing that, by pushing a little harder when I wasn't fully like balanced in my body, like muscular wise. So I've been ordered into the gym.
Good.
And so I'm going to be doing that. And
I'm in the gym too.
Good. What about the pool? Is the pool okay for your back or not really? Is it the pushing off that's not so good?
I haven't been swimming very much. The flip turns, I think, are really the inhibitor there.
Yeah.
It's not the swimming itself. But I'm just trying, my focus really is the gym right now to get as strong and as stable as possible.
For the same idea, right?
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. We can trade
My
notes.
money is on you, buddy.
I want to see the workout that he wrote up for you.
He hasn't written them up. He's giving me ideas, and then I think I'm not ready for his workouts.
Come on.
I think.
Come on.
I know. So how about 70.3, dude?
Yeah. So Christian Blumenfeld snapping back after Gustav clutching the Ironman World Championship victory out from beneath them.
Yep.
Following week, Christian says, "Yeah, watch this." Pulls it right back.
Was it just 1 week or 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
Was it two? I think it was
3 weeks.
2 weeks, not 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
I think it must have been 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that.
But on their podcast with you, there was a foreshadowing of this, because Gustav said to you that he takes him a long time to recover, and Christian said that he can go week to week to week and just keep grinding out these races.
Yeah, he like doesn't accumulate lactate.
Right, and so Gustav kind of, in two ways, kind of tipped this off. One way is that his focus is now all the way on Paris, so he wasn't even thinking about 70.3 anymore. He seems to have, like, I hit 70.3, I did Kona Ironman, now I'm going to get that gold medal, and that's where he's at. Whereas,
and they just did Bermuda, I think it was yesterday, which is short course Olympic distance. And I think I should be up to speed on this. I didn't read up on it as much as I should, but I think Gustav was top 10. So to go from Ironman to Olympic distance and be top 10 at the elite level without, any kind of training modification in such a compressed period of time, like, bodes well for Paris.
Yeah.
I don't know where Christian ended up in that race.
It just shows that, but like Christian, he's so hungry he just wants race after race, and he lost, and so he wanted this win. I just find it interesting how they on your podcast, they basically told us Christian recovers better. He can race again 2 weeks after an Ironman easier than Gustav. And
right. Well, but what's also another added interesting wrinkle to that is that I think Gustav is actually has a higher kind of threshold. So he's technically should be faster, but if it takes him longer to recover, how does that work?
Right.
I don't know, because they're very different athletes.
It's a fascinating discussion between the three of you. I loved it. And this particular race, I was watching it, and Christian had that late downhill push, leaving American Ben Canute for the win. On the women's side, the women were almost as fast. Like, the men finished their bike ride with an average speed of 28 miles per hour. I think the women were like in the 26s. I mean, they are fast. And Taylor Knibb, another American, rising back up and winning. The Americans are rising back up in this sport now. We saw it at Kona, right, with the second place. We see it here with the second place on the men's side, and then 2 first place finishes with women that were just not even thought of as real contenders. I mean, they were off the radar. Not that they weren't contenders, but they just weren't talked about.
Right.
And so now the Americans are kind of rising back up in the sport. So that's got to be exciting. I mean, I know people that you're friends with must be really excited about that in this triathlon world.
It is cool.
Yeah,
it is cool.
Yeah.
There is a shift. I think it's a new, just this new generation of really interesting athletes who, are going to be competing at the highest level for many years to come.
Yeah, it's cool.
But from that, let's switch gears.
Yes.
I do want to touch briefly on the 3100 Self-Transcendence run.
Insane.
My favorite race.
Yes.
Where they run around a block in Queens like 800 billion times.
Yes.
To accumulate 3,100 miles. basically in 52 days or less. It's essentially running 60 miles a day until you've run ostensibly the distance of going from one side of the United States to the other. I had Sanjay Rawal on the podcast a couple of years ago. He made a documentary about this race called Run and Become, 3100 Run and Become.
Mm-hmm.
You can find that on Prime Video, or you can listen to our podcast. In that, it follows some athletes who and their kind of life stories and why they do this thing. One of which is this guy Ashprahanal Alto, who's won it a couple times, and he came in second this year. The interesting thing about this, though, that I wanted to draw attention to is that there was a Ukrainian and a Russian who were running it. And Outside Magazine wrote this article about these two
Ben
guys
Pryor.
who are friends.
Ben
And you
Pryor.
know this guy,
Ben Pryor is a Rich
right?
Roll listener, and
cool.
he reached out to
Shout out to
me.
Ben.
Rich
Awesome.
Roll listener, and he reached out to me, and we've worked together. He's done some research for me in the past, and he wrote this beautiful piece on this.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It's pretty cool.
You're gonna link to it, yeah?
Yeah, I'll link to it. And the power of running to reach across boundaries and
But also
create some level of unity and a bond for peace.
and also within yourself, finding more.
Well, that's what the whole 3100 thing is all about.
Right.
It's this Sri Chinmoy search for self-transcendence.
Right.
And you can't solve the world's problems if you can't, transcend your own problems.
And that same kind of thread runs through your podcast. It runs through the Goggins book, in both books. That's what makes it unique. That's why people want kind of this nectar, I think, because it is something you have to continually look for, because it does. Otherwise, you just get distant from it.
You don't. Well, you never like transcend it completely.
No,
it tends to snap back.
Yeah,
and I can tell you for a fact that is my experience of life.
Yes, life snaps back.
The
in your
minute
face.
you think like, oh, you've mastered something, you will be rudely reminded that the work is never done.
Yes.
But beautiful, man. Yeah. So we'll link up that in the show notes. We should touch base on this guy, Ned Brockman, who ran across Australia. Did you follow this story?
The 23-year-old electrician.
Yeah, this guy is off the rails.
He ran from Perth to Bondi, 50 miles per day in 47 days, covering nearly 2,500 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And he was raising money for a homeless charity. And he overcame so many injuries. And he at one point was sleeping 2 hours a day. I mean, it was amazing. And he got this huge following, like Forrest Gump style, didn't he?
It's crazy because people run across America all the time.
Right.
And I've had lots of those people on the podcast, and there's small groups of people are there kind of, good job. Yeah. And, maybe they have friends and family, and 100 people meet them at the beach when they finish, or in New York City. I mean, Hella had a nice crowd to greet him when he completed his run. This guy, though, I mean, throngs of thousands. If you go to his Instagram, he finishes in Bondi Beach. Look at all these people. If you're watching on YouTube, I have his Instagram up right now. It's Ned Brockman, 2 Ds and 2 Ns on Brockman. Unbelievable crowds of people to cheer this guy on. And this dude is the most Aussie in the history of Aussies. He's got a mullet, and the way he talks and the vernacular and the use of Australian slang, I don't even know what this guy's talking about 90% of the time.
Fast talker.
I'm planning on being in Australia in January. I wonder if I can track this guy down.
You got
and
to.
see if I can convince him to come on the podcast, because I would love to hear more about this dude. And he's 23. He has positive energy. People love him.
Yeah.
There's something really cool about it.
He's not 56.
Mad respect. He's not 56. I'm literally twice his age, Adam.
No, you're more than
Should
that.
I be bummed about that?
You're not literally
that's right.
twice his age.
Oh my God. That's undershooting it dramatically. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. On the subject of being excited about somebody who did his own crazy thing, this guy, I wanted to shout out this guy, Paul Minter, who is a dude in the UK who a military guy who lost 14 comrades to suicide, more than he lost to combat. He was a soldier, and he founded this mental health charity called Head Up for the military, and developed this range of positive mindset techniques. And to kind of raise awareness for that, he ran 5,000 miles of the United Kingdom, like around the periphery, I believe, the periphery of the United Kingdom, to raise awareness and money for military mental health for this retreat center that he's trying to build, which is really cool. So,
very cool.
Anyway, yeah. I went to Andrew Huberman's live show. He sold out the Wiltern Theater. It was great. Did his thing. It was unbelievable. I got to commingle with all of his fans. It was super fun.
That's another weird thing about this era. Now it's
podcasters going on tour.
Professors are
just
playing
the fact
the
that,
Wiltern.
A neuroscience professor could sell out the Wiltern Theater and perform a neuroscience 2-hour lecture to a group of people who are taking notes and completely engaged with what he's doing. Like, when you feel pessimistic about the future, like, that is something that gives me hope. I think it's cool.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
What's the connection?
Didn't that movie just come out or something?
It came out like a year ago.
Right,
but I don't know what
all this good stuff and bad stuff's all happening all at once.
I feel you.
Yeah.
All right, let's take one more break, and we're back with more. Sorry to interrupt the flow. We'll be right back with more awesome, but I want to snag a moment to talk to you about the importance of nutrition. The thing is, most people I know actually already know how to eat better and aspire to incorporate more whole plants, more fruits, vegetables, seeds, beans, and legumes into their daily routine. Sadly, however, without the kitchen tools and support, very few end up sticking with it. So, because adopting a plant-based diet transformed my life so profoundly, and because I want everybody to experience some version of what I've experienced, we decided to tackle and solve this very common problem. The solution we've devised, I'm proud to say, is the Plant Power Meal Planner, our affordable, all-in-one digital platform that sets you up for nutrition excellence by providing access to thousands of highly customizable, super delicious, and easy to prepare plant-based recipes. Everything integrates with automatic grocery delivery, and you get access to our amazing team of nutrition coaches 7 days a week and many other features. To learn more and to sign up, visit meals.richroll.com. And right now, for a limited time, we're offering $10 off an annual membership when you use the promo code RRHealth at checkout. This is life-changing stuff, people, for just $1.70 a week, literally the price of a cup of coffee. Again, that's meals.richroll.com, promo code RRHealth for $10 off an annual membership. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, and we're back. I don't want to dip too deep into the culture wars, but there is a certain issue that I think demands our discussion and our redress. You want to launch into this, Adam?
It's a strange time to be a Jew. That's a quote from this book, one of several books I will be.
Michael Chabon's.
Michael Chabon, The Yiddish Policeman's Union, a great murder mystery.
I haven't read that one.
And it's always a strange time to be a Jew in that world, which it is. And it has been lately. We don't have to get too deep into it. We all know what happened with Kanye or Ye. Is it Ye? Ye or Ye?
Is it Ye?
Ye.
Ye.
He wanted to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews. Even though DEFCON 3 is kind of like in the between. DEFCON 5 is bad. So DEFCON 3 is just a scolding.
Right. It was weird that he chose DEFCON 3. Like, either go all the way in or like de-escalate.
Right. He's DEFCON 3, just moving up a little bit.
We're gonna incrementally increase
incremental
and increase the threat.
It worked because there were 405 banners over the 405, kind of saying Kanye was right and people honking. Kanye is right about the Jews and a lot of people honking. There were mailbox incidents in Brentwood and Pacific Palisades, where kind of anti-Semitic literature was distributed. Cars were vandalized with swastikas in Calabasas. I know somebody who had that happen. Or I know a friend of a friend, excuse me.
Who lives in Calabasas who had a swastika painted on their car?
Not painted, keyed.
Wow.
And that same message that was on those banners over the 405 was projected on a football stadium a week ago at the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville, 100,000 or so people there. And the universities of both Florida and Georgia had to issue statements kind of obviously saying, It wasn't us. It wasn't an organized thing, and we condemn this. And then, kind of like not too long after, I mean, right after that, not too long after, Kyrie made his post where he was promoting a movie that's on Amazon. And you can find the movie. I'm not going to go spend that time on this platform to talk about it, but I will just say that it was a very anti-Semitic, and it basically is a Holocaust-denying movie, among other things. And it talks more in like the overall global conspiracy kind of jargon, just like Kanye was getting at, and that is, that Jews run the world and they're pulling a fast one or whatever it is. And those same kind of ideas have been around for a long, long time in neo-Nazi circles. They've been
all of these tropes
yes.
that are resurfacing are age-old and timeless. Like they're the same arguments that get resurfaced whenever anti-Semitism flares up.
100%. And so then there was like, after Kyrie's thing, there wasn't like, some people spoke up, but it took a long time. Like days passed. And yes, the owner of the Nets, who's Kyrie's team that he plays on, the Brooklyn Nets, said something right away. And then there was this kind of lull and nobody said anything. The NBA didn't condemn it, didn't suspend him. Nothing happened until I give full credit to Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and Reggie Miller, Malibu's own, who on their platform Inside the NBA, and while they were doing their games last week, they just spoke out very strongly against Kyrie and in support of Jewish people. And so that was cool. I mean, even after the Kanye stuff, there was support on Instagram of people speaking out.
Yeah.
So it was a
pretty
mixed
universal denouncement.
Yeah. So there was a universal
Kanye.
denouncement of Kanye. Then the Kyrie thing happened. There was almost nothing. And then that happened. And so it is a strange time. You're seeing the kind of the anti-Semitism. You're seeing the support at the same time. Strange times to be a Jew. But through all of that, in the defense of and in the denunciation of, I noticed that people don't really fully understand what anti-Semitism is or what these tropes are about. And, I don't actually think, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think Kyrie probably even watched the movie, to be honest with you. And I don't think Kyrie hates Jewish people. I think he's gullible. He's a flat earther guy, maybe years ago. And so I think even people who defended Jewish people don't fully understand it. And so I just wanted to take just a couple minutes to talk about how I view it. And that is that Judaism is not just a religion. That's how people ought to frame it. I didn't mean to insult your religion. It's not really just a religion. It's a tribe of people that have existed without a country for almost their entire existence, right? Kicked out of Israel, in Egypt as slaves, trying to get back to Israel, kicked out of there again, end up in Eastern Europe mostly, but all over the world. My family came on my father's side from Russia, my mother's side, Latvia and Poland. And they lived their life here. They came over in the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, depending on which side, mostly beginning of the 20th century. And when they were here, Jews weren't considered white people. And, it was the influx of Jews that actually ramped down immigration laws. So all of a sudden, the wide open immigration wasn't wide open anymore because of so many Jews and Italian people, but mostly Jews that were coming in. And so they weren't. So this idea that it's just a religion is where I just want to point that out. That's just not correct, in my opinion. It's an ethnic minority group with a shared history. And it's been under attack, not just on the right wing. We all know the Charlottesville chanting, Jews will not replace us, but on the left. Like, I consider what Kanye and Kyrie are doing is more on the left side of things. I mean, Kanye is probably on the right, but Kyrie more on the left side of things, where there has been an increase in anti-Semitism, quite frankly, straight up. And a lot of that is conflated with legitimate criticism of Israeli policy in Palestine, but some of it is not. And you'll hear the same New World Order kind of like, George Soros' evil shit, which is the same thing that they used to say back in the early 20th century about the Rothschilds. The same shit is being reproduced now. That you'll hear that in yoga studios. I mean, you will. And so you'll hear that on the left a lot. And so what we need to do is we need to combat this ignorance. Obviously, it's always ignorance. Any sort of prejudice is just ignorance. It's just displaying your own ignorance. We know that. And so I would just encourage people who are not familiar with Jews, and there's not that many of us. A lot of people are not friendly with us. So not for any reason, just they haven't met us. And so there's a great documentary out right now. It's a series by Ken Burns. We all know how great Ken Burns is. It's the U.S. and the Holocaust. It dates back to how American Jim Crow policies actually influenced the Nazi regime. And then it doubles back and talks about how early industrialists like Henry Ford were actually in line with the Nazi regime and all of that. But then it gets into real heroism and people who supported and spoke out against what was happening. You'd be surprised to know that when during early days of World War II, when it came out that 1 million or so Jews had been exterminated in Europe, that wasn't front page news. It was on page 8 because I don't know why. You'll see in this documentary, nuts. It wasn't on front page news. The only paper in the country that had it as front page news was a Pittsburgh newspaper. I think it was the Pittsburgh Courier. It's a black community newspaper. And they were the only ones to put it on the cover. And so, and that's because they had their own intimate experience with oppression and a genocidal kind of background. And so I think that it's important that people watch that. It's a great primer. And I think, the only way to kind of eradicate this ignorance is by shining a light on it and trying to get to know a bit more about the subject. I think if you haven't read it, obviously Diary of Anne Frank, Anne Frank's family stories in that series. Man's Search for Meaning is right up the alley of this podcast.
Sure.
Viktor Frankl was in Auschwitz, and this is a story of survival, but also of trying to find, humanity in that situation. And then there's Elie Wiesel, who is, this is a very dark story about his experience in the Holocaust. So those are great books. I highly recommend, but if your thing is watching video and watching movies, Ken Burns is the gold standard. Obviously, we know that. It's riveting stuff, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for that. It is so strange and disconcerting that there is this, this weird groundswell right now of this sentiment percolating up. Why now? What is going on? And what's so strange about anti-Semitism is the weird and disturbing ways in which it kind of prods both left-leaning and right-leaning people. On the one hand, it's the ethnic minority who's penetrating our border and taking our jobs, and we're the non-white people, right? But on the other hand, it's also the people who have sort of ingratiated themselves into culture and ascended to positions of power and are secretly controlling everything.
Right.
So it's both of those things at the same time.
Right. And that's what fascism is, right? When the right and the left meet. That's why it's scary. But I'm not here to say that I feel like we're on that trip down that memory lane to that dark place. I don't think we are. I don't believe that at all. But listen, I've experienced anti-Semitism my whole life. It just happens. My great uncles, my grandparents, they endured it on the streets. I've had so many just comments at me or around me my whole life. It's fine. We are not really geared to vocally fight it. We're more geared to ignore it and just get on with it. And if you look at Goldman Sachs, I'm not telling you that I think Goldman Sachs is a great institution, but Goldman Sachs was started by Jews who couldn't get jobs on Wall Street because they were Jewish. And so then they started Goldman Sachs. And look what happened. Hollywood started by Jewish people. So these kinds of businesses, I think that's where these myths and these conspiracies come through. They didn't need Wall Street to build Goldman Sachs and then dominated Wall Street. So that's going to engender a certain jealousy. I just think that, obviously Kyrie made a mistake. I think Kanye is having mental health issues personally. Not an excuse for that behavior, and I'm not here to excuse it, but it just shows that we all have work to do, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I am encouraged by the essentially, broadly unanimous denouncement of all of this, but there are pockets of people for whom, that Kanye's messaging resonates with them, which is disturbing, right? And you can't separate that from the impact of social media and the internet on how it's shaping and warping brains alike, right?
Yes.
In terms of like, what we're seeing spill over into real world ramifications in culture, which brings us, of course, to Elon Musk buying Twitter. It's very controversial.
Yes.
He's sort of this, incredibly successful serial entrepreneur, richest man on the planet, who is kind of turning into an edgelord, like interested in basically being extremely online on Twitter.
Yeah.
And has purchased this platform where he reigns supreme. And it would appear, as of today's taping, is kind of making the rules, as he goes. Now, listen, I think Twitter has a lot of problems. I think there's room for tremendous improvement. I would like to see it turn into a healthy ecosystem for global discussion. Elon Musk seems intent on making lots of changes. As of right now, I'm not exactly sanguine about those changes, being as positive as I think we would all like. And this seems to be evolving moment to moment as we speak.
Today it was
well,
something
the whole, he's like this hardline policy on like you can't impersonate anybody unless you declare that it's sarcasm.
Right.
But all of these accounts were turning their names into Elon Musk, and then he's like banning them. And it's like, it's weird right now.
Right.
Everything that's going on
because
there.
Sarcasm is always funnier when you say it up front.
Right. But if Kathy Griffin is changing her profile name to Elon Musk, we all know that it's sarcasm.
Right.
Does she need to declare that? And then her account is suspended. Like, maybe there's something good about having a hardline policy of like nobody can impersonate anybody. We'll see what happens here. This seems to be changing literally hour to hour. The latest I heard was that of all the people that were fired, now they're trying to bring a bunch of those people back.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Kevin Rose's kind of
well, he's got this new podcast now called Hard Fork with Casey Newton.
Right.
And they did a whole deep dive last week on it and actually interviewed some Twitter employees about what it's like, their lived experience of being there and kind of living through all of this.
Are you going to fork over your $8 a month? Is that even happening?
Yeah, I guess that's already a thing. There's an update where people are doing that.
Are you doing it?
I have a hard time imagining doing that. Like, I have problems with this in that it seems like really what you're getting out of it is amplification of your tweets. If you don't pay the $8, they've basically said they're suppressing your tweets and nobody's going to see them. So is this a free speech
that doesn't
thing?
Seem free speech.
Yeah, like I think there is a bot problem, and I think verification is important, and it would be nice if everybody was vetted and you had to actually prove and establish that you are who you are. I think that would solve a lot of problems. And I think there is friction when you say you have to pay. Suddenly, a lot of these bots and bot farms are, going to get weeded out. But I'm not sure this is the best way of doing that. But I'm not a computer scientist nor a social media engineer.
Right.
I just know that this is a very unhealthy situation right now, and it feels very tempestuous at the moment.
My friend Reese Pacheco sent me a couple of. He's in finance, and he's working on a great project, I should say, about kind of trying to find climate solutions, but in investing in climate solutions for profit. And he sent me a couple of like diatribes on this, and one of them was like this new social network that they're talking about. I know Jack Dorsey is in beta on a new thing, and so like
I signed up for that beta just to see.
Did you? It's a good idea. I mean, but what will happen? Like all these people who are on Twitter who had like hundreds of thousands of followers, they're not going to give up on, like, if they go to Mushroom or whatever it is, they're going to start at zero. Like,
Mastodon.
Or
Mastodon.
Mastodon's one of them. Is that Dorsey's one?
No. I don't know who owns Mastodon. Okay. The Dorsey one, I forget what it's called, but it's still, it's still in beta. Like you just give your email or whatever. It's been interesting to see Jack Dorsey clap back on Elon a little bit also because
he's gone both.
Jack, wanted, like Elon was the person that Jack really wanted to inherit this. And he felt very strongly that Elon could solve these problems. Now it seems to be that there's a little bit of friction between them. It's hard to tell.
The genius myth.
I mean, yeah, here we are again.
Myth.
Here we are again. Myth. Like, yes. So what is actually happening. To me, it looks like a dumpster fire right now. But maybe he can do this. I don't know.
Do what though? What is what problem is he solving?
Good question.
Right. There's no problem to solve here. Like the problem is
well, also we're going into the midterms right now, and like he's just fired staffs and teams of people who are involved in content moderation to avoid a lot of the misinformation that leads to all of these problems that we're seeing with alleged voter fraud, et cetera.
I would like it if Elon could figure out a way to get the Democratic Party to stop emailing me.
That would be good.
How many emails?
I could tell you in the last 2 weeks, I literally get dozens of text messages, phone calls, and I have like a whole, like I spend hours every day reporting junk and like unsubscribing from emails. But literally in the last 5 days, I mean, like how many text messages are you getting?
Text message, email. I'm getting
phone calls,
and they're all desperate and thirsty. It's like it's not in. Like who's in charge of email strategy? None of it seems like it's going well.
It's not good.
Yeah. It's like we're gonna lose. Yeah, with this attitude, you're definitely going to lose. Yeah. One campaign.
So come Tuesday, tomorrow, at least all of that will stop. Hopefully.
One campaign emailed me 14 times within a 24-hour period. I told April, I said this campaign 14 times, and she looked at me. She goes, "You're gonna lose, bro." That was her message for that campaign. You are not winning.
Oh man. All right. I mean, all right, let's crawl out of this desperate black hole.
Yes.
I do want to note, because we haven't done a roll-on in a while.
Yes.
And this might be the last roll-on of the year because we go into December. I've got some travel coming up. I'm not going to be around. And then in December, we do our best of episodes.
Unless you want to do like a Zoom roll-on.
We can't do a Zoom roll-on. Are you kidding me?
I'm trying to get another
We might have to pre-record a roll-on that we could we'll see.
All right.
But
I'm trying to get one in, listeners.
There is a chance this might be the last roll-on of the year.
To get one more
in which case, let's like bring it back to, something helpful to people.
Let's do it. Can I start?
Yeah.
Happy 10-year anniversary.
Thank you, sir.
10 years.
10 years
to this week?
of this podcast.
To this date?
No, I think it's kind of around Thanksgiving. Like I think it's near the end of around the 23rd or something like that of November.
Can we turn this on, guys?
Before we do that, so we are celebrating 10 years. We did the last roll-on we did, though. I did do those 10 or 12 things that I've learned from doing this for 10 years. So I don't want to completely reprise that because that was a little bit of we were kind of celebrating then. But there was, so when we first started, I'm going to show this video. We were early on the video because Julie and I, would record these little teasers about the podcast. So this must have been like for like episode 4 or something like that. This is on YouTube.
Looking good.
Episode 4 of the podcast. Back with Julie Pyatt. So what did we talk about today? Here's a little trailer video. We're going to tell you a little bit about what to expect in this 4th episode of the podcast.
So we talked about crashing. Rich crashed today. He's got a little road rash.
Yeah, I crashed my bike today out here in Kauai. So we talked a little bit about cycling in Kauai, which kind of brought us into talking about my Ultraman race in 2009. All right, I can't watch myself.
We're talking about my crashing journey from today, earlier.
I actually feel a little bit better. Like, I think I've gotten better at this podcasting thing.
You have.
But early on in video,
look how great you
look. I was fit then. Now I feel like motivated to get fit again because I am looking pretty fit there. Anyway,
great. You both do. It's
the point
great.
It's been 10 years.
Lovingly.
We're in this warehouse where the acoustics you could hear are terrible.
I'm liking the fact that if there's a fire that breaks out, you're going to handle it.
You think so?
Well, yeah. Look at the fire extinguisher.
Oh, there's a fire extinguisher there. Yeah. Anyway, it's crazy to look at that. 10 years, and of those kind of lessons that I shared last time, I felt like I rifled through them really quickly. There were 3 that I kind of wanted to spend a little bit more time on.
Okay.
The first of which, and the reason being that I think that these lessons are applicable and informative to anybody who's trying to achieve or accomplish anything meaningful in their lives. And the first one, and perhaps the most important of all of them, is consistency, right? Like the reason this podcast is successful is that over that 10-year period, we never missed a week. We always uploaded. We never succumbed to perfection paralysis. Not every episode was amazing, but we just had this mission of like, hey, every Monday we upload no matter what. And now we do, a couple midweek kind of things, but that whole like Monday morning, there's a new podcast up every time, no matter what. We've never missed in the entire time. So yeah. And so you learn as you go. And, as you can see from this video and my cringeworthy disposition, they're not all going to be perfect. You're not going to be great when you start. And that's not the point. The point is to marshal the courage to weather through that and continue to keep iterating and doing in the face of understanding that it's not going to be amazing all the time.
Yeah.
And this is the case for you as a writer.
Yep.
It's the case for me as an athlete or anything that I've accomplished in my life as a result of doing small things with extreme regularity and consistency. That's how you move the needle. So you look at these big goals and they're giant mountains that you have to climb. And there's something sexy about, planting your flag and declaring that as your goal. But in truth, whether or not you accomplish that goal has everything to do with all the tiny little things you do every single day when nobody's paying attention and nobody cares. And it's very easy to flake out and the stakes are low.
100%. That's the case of being a writer. You need to work the muscle. It's a craft. It's not a talent. You can have some talent and affinity for it and some natural talent, but that's not going to get you anywhere in a professional way, in my opinion. It could if you also just happen to have like built-in attention, like you can focus and get something amazing out. And then maybe, yes, you can be a wonderkin. But for people like me, who did have some skill, but, just couldn't, it took me a long time to actually be good and as a storyteller. I could turn a phrase, but to actually get good at this took me years and years and years of frustration and just make an appointment with yourself to go do it. And even now I'm doing it. Being
willing to be bad. Like even if you like reduce the stakes even further in your daily journaling practice or whatever it is that you're, trying to kind of master, doing it privately for yourself and allowing yourself to be bad so that you get out of that mindset of being stuck or thinking that everything you do has to be great. And I'm just thinking about like this next book that you did with David Goggins.
Yes.
After like this just unprecedented success of the first book,
yes,
it would be very easy to be paralyzed and say, well, maybe we'll do a second book or maybe not. Like, well, it'll never be as successful. So why do another book? Let's go do a podcast or let's do something else, right? Like, let's not even try.
Right.
Or to go into that second book saying, well, there's no way it could be, that was a flash in the pan, one-time thing. So, okay, well, we'll do this book, but like, it doesn't have to be that good because it'll never be as good as the other thing.
But at least then we have like, I can be of service to him, and then we can, and obviously Jennifer Kish is involved deeply in this, and then it's like a team that.
Right. I'm saying the courage to show up anyway in light of like all of that, and then get to the other side of it and actually create something that everybody feels like rivals, if not altogether exceeds the original book itself, is a result of having the courage to like not pay attention to. Not be paralyzed by that early success.
And that's I think his secret to success in general is he's always focused on
the next thing,
and he's keeping himself oriented forward. And then when it's a team thing, it's a little even easier as a writer to when it's a crew of us working together. It doesn't make it easy. It's still hard, and he has his process and I have my process, and it's all writing. It's all one thing, But when you have each other and it's a team, it's like even easier. When you're by yourself and you're hitting your head against the screen, it's a lot. It's harder to keep going sometimes.
And you don't have an accountability partner,
right?
Because it's just you and whatever fabricated deadline you've come up with,
and nobody cares. Like at least in that sense, people really wanted it. He's been asked about it. He's been like, and people really want it. There's a market for it. So just like you said, yes. The easy thing for him would have been like, hey, I've made my impact. I'll go do something else because I can do a million things and the world's open. And he chose this because he loves the process.
Right. Which brings me to the next thing, which is process over results.
Yeah.
Falling in love with the process.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a dream or a goal that is oriented around a certain kind of result, but if the result is all you care about and the process is nothing but drudgery that you dread, you're unlikely of being successful. You have to find a way to engage with the process and fall in love with it over time, to really allow it to energize you rather than it be, sort of an impediment, or something that you feel like is an annoyance on the journey towards a certain result. And the more you're rooted in the process, the less the results matter, because to, sort of go back to the Goggins thing, like whatever the result is, you're on to the next thing anyway, because you're all about the process.
And well, when you're talking specifically about writing, that is the process, is rewriting and rewriting and reanalyzing and reanalyzing and rereading and rewriting. And so to get to be good at it, the process includes that. So that liberates you from worrying about, is the first draft any good? Now, it doesn't necessarily always work that way in everything that you're doing when you're on a tight deadline. But for me, almost anything I write the first time through needs a lot of work. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's not your best work. It's the first work, and it's a way to kind of get it out. Occasionally, like the O story, it came out real smooth the first time. It's very rare that happens for me. Usually I chunk it out.
But the point is, you're writing all the time. And we're using writing as a metaphor for anything. That could be your race result or your, your grade in your college class or whatever it is. Yeah. But the point is, you're doing it because this is what you do and this is who you are, not because you want to see a book on a bookshelf in a bookstore, but because you are a writer and writers write. Like, I think one of the great examples of this is Ryan Holiday. Like, how many books has that guy written in the last 10 years? Like, he's written
how old is he?
12 books and he's like 18 years old. And the reason is that he is a writer and he's in love with the process. And as soon as he turns a manuscript in, he's literally onto the next book, like the next day. Like, he does not allow any kind of like interference with the process of being a writer. Like, he's researching, he's making these cards, and he goes through his whole process. He has this box that he puts all his index cards in, and how he maps out all all of it. Yeah, and it's sort of, when you're done with the writing, and then you're onto this other phase of it, which is more reading oriented, and it's all detached from whether the book ends up on some list or how many copies it's sold.
It's the process itself.
It doesn't impact like what he wakes up and does every single day.
Well, I respect that. I mean, personally, I will say, I think that sometimes the process does feel like drudgery. Sometimes it does for me.
Sure.
And that could be anything. And I'm sure there's athletes that feel that way about
training. But you
do
it anyway.
But
That's
you do
the
it
point.
anyway.
Yeah.
You do it anyway. Because eventually there'll be a time in every session where you'll find the reason you're doing it. So like, even if it feels like shit, you feel like you're running in mud for, for the most of your run, for 8 of 10K, there might be a point where you feel like, okay, that's why I did it. It might be right at the end, might be at the end,
right,
with the endorphin rush.
Right.
But if, for me, that's an amazing story of Ryan.
Seth Godin is the same way. I did a podcast with him. It hasn't gone up yet, but that guy's written a blog post every single day for like how many years?
Right.
Back to 2005 or 6 or something like that, every single day. And he's a master of creative expression and how you think about and pursue a life as a creative person who literally, ships their work, like isn't paralyzed under the weight of their own, the pressures that they impose upon themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to give your best effort. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way when you look back at it that day. But that doesn't matter, because over time, the process and the consistency is the effort.
Yeah. And that's what matters.
Right.
Really, at the end of the day. All the other stuff is nonsense, because you do the thing because that's who you are. And this is what you do.
It's a great thing to remember.
And it's back to
that mindset.
The final point that I want to make is around patience. And you mentioned you show up for it. It's drudgery. You hate it. It sucks. It's terrible. And then you have that moment of breakthrough where it's just flowing, right? And you're this channel and it's all working out. And you live for those moments as a writer,
right,
as an athlete, where you feel in the flow, as a musician who's writing a song, whatever it is. those don't come easy and they're not predictable and you can't manufacture them. But the only way that you can experience them is if you're showing up consistently and make yourself available for that, right? And that requires patience. And beyond that, it's important to understand that becoming good at anything takes much longer than people are really willing to like reckon with or accept. Everybody in this instant gratification culture, they want the result. They don't want to endure the hard work that it takes to get there. And they completely overestimate what they can do in short periods of time. Like, oh, in a year I'll be here or whatever. I can, this goal. And if things aren't going well initially right out of the gate, or it's not headed in the direction immediately that they want it to head, people abandon their path. And the truth is, and I beat this drum consistently because I think it's so important, and I'm not sure that people really appreciate it or believe it, but it really does take at least 10 years to get good at anything, whether you're an athlete, a writer, podcaster, musician. Like, you show up for something every single day, it's going to take 10 years minimum before you have any kind of like solid aptitude at that, that is worth sharing with other people.
I found it interesting, and again, going back to your interview with the Bergen Boys, that even when they were 14, like
they were training like professionals.
Yeah, Gustav said he trained for 10 years, and even at 14, they had a 10-year plan.
Right.
At 14.
And now they're 10 years later, and everyone's like, oh my God, nobody can do this well at their first Kona, and they're crushing it. But Gustav was like, yeah, I've been doing this since I was 14. I've been training like a professional. This is a 10-year plan finally manifesting.
So let me ask you, have you ever had a 5 or 10-year plan?
No.
Like a formal one?
No, not really.
No. Like,
I fall in love with certain things and I get invested in them and I pursue them, and I've experienced that I actually don't get good at them until like the decade, lapses. And I'm just feeling that now with podcasting. As a swimmer, as an athlete, it took 10 years. Obviously I was a kid, growing into it and all of that. I've heard this when I was a lawyer, it takes 10 years to build a client list and be successful. You as a writer, like, I don't know. I mean, certainly there's outlier examples.
20 years.
It took me 20 years. Yeah. Like, yeah. And but all of these experiences that you have inform the craft.
Well, Ryan Holiday, those guys sound very structured. I've lived kind of unstructured. April always calls it, I live the improv life, or that's how she always perceived it. And now I'm getting to the point where I've already know my ideas or have fielding ideas for next books right away. Like, I'm into something already. And so I'm now getting to that point. But I've never had I remember an ex-girlfriend's aunt once asked me my 5-year plan, and I was like offended. I was like, I'm offended by that remark.
Yeah.
I was offended. So
because
like
no true free spirit artist would have a 5-year plan.
Yes.
That is offensive. Right?
The 5-year plan is like a mask to the anti-masker. Yeah. That's what it was like to me. I was offended by, I didn't want anything to do with that stuff. But yes, I was more free spirited and all that. And, I still have that within me. So it's interesting to like, ponder that. Like, I was wondering if you'd had it, like, even now, now that you have a whole operation, do you guys have, how far out do you guys plan?
It's interesting. Like, I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have a 10-year plan, but I do have, the way I think about it is what gets me excited and what am I curious about? And I have the privilege and the freedom to indulge in those things now because this is successful. And because I'm surrounded by talented people who are very capable and can handle a lot of the things that, I used to do on my own. And Tyler, who's here back working with us, used to handle for me when it was just the two of us. Now I have some added free time to think about and execute on other projects. And that is a privilege. And I don't take it lightly. So I don't think about it in terms of 5 or 10-year plans. I think about it in terms of like, what would be cool? What would feel meaningful, to invest some extra time in? Where do I feel underexpressed, and how can I express myself better in a way that would be helpful to other people outside of the podcast? All of those things are things I think about.
You have your goals,
but I don't do it on.
You have like towards like during the year, you start to think about next year towards the end, right? And think about, is there something I want to add to the list next year? I mean, do you do that at all in any even an informal way?
maybe in a very informal way.
Okay.
Like I said at the outset, like I
Right.
want to have a stable body and I
Yeah.
want to be fit enough so that I could like pop into
Right.
all of these fun
enough.
experiences. Like that's a sort of vague goal, I suppose, but important to me and meaningful.
Yeah.
That isn't wed to any kind of like timeline or anything like that.
Mm.
So I think setting goals is important. You want to have a North Star, something that you're working towards. But I think you also have to hold on to those a little bit loosely. And I've said this before, like be available and open to, other intervening miracles that can reconfigure your trajectory. Because if you're so like, this is what I'm doing, and you're so rigid about it, then perhaps you're also blind to other things that could be beneficial. Or
Right. Really interesting. I was looking at your early episodes, and you had Julie on episode 1 and 3. You had Chris, Jabe. Is that who you were collaborating with over there?
He was the owner of Common Ground.
Right.
He was like our host or whatever.
And then you had Gabby Reese, episode 8, and kind of you're off and running now on that train. I mean, I loved going through, like looking at that. I'm like, it's really inspiring to look back and see like that trajectory for me anyway. It was cool to see. Is there any early moments you remember that where it clicked for you? Like any early stuff where you're like, am I doing this? Or am I not doing this? Am I playing? Am I real? Was there a moment early on?
There was never a sense that this was a vocation or a business. Like it was literally like me having a creative impulse and feeling a little bit stymied on this island where I felt disconnected and uncertain about what my next move would be. And also, as a fan of podcasting, interested in this medium and had for a long time wanted to explore the possibilities there. So I did the homework to figure out how you do it, because it's not self-evident how you do it. It still isn't. Like you do have to like, how do you get this thing up on Apple? It wasn't Apple Podcasts, then it was iTunes. How does that work? Blah, blah, blah. Figuring all of that out. And then just sitting down and having a conversation with Julie, at the end of which thinking, that was fun. Let's do that again. It wasn't like, oh, this is my new life.
Right.
It was just, now people launch podcasts and they have strategies and they hire publicists and they're pre-selling the advertising and they have a whole thing about like, how many should we record ahead of time? And what it was like, it wasn't like that at all. Like we were just freewheeling it and having fun, and did it for a long time before we monetized it in any meaningful way. I mean, years before it was self-sustaining in any material way, but doing it for the love of it, doing it because I enjoyed the process of it, because it scratched a creative itch, and it allowed me to continue to grow and explore new ideas by allowing me to have conversation with interesting people at a time when people were not clamoring to start podcasts. Like it just wasn't a thing back then. Like it was very unusual and not cool to have a podcast, but I loved it. And, now the fact that it's like this huge kind of medium where there's so much energy and interest in is like an added bonus.
It's very cool to have a podcast now.
It's crazy. Because
it was all at the red
it was
carpet.
Literally the dorkiest thing ever. Like it was sort of like, do you work at Radio Shack? Like you're some kind of weird hobbyist,
Yes.
Embarrassing to admit, in mixed company that you were a podcast host. And obviously that has changed. And
but you used to have to explain what a podcast is, I'm sure.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
How many years before you monetized it?
I think we did some ads here and there for like Audible that were like, we were barely getting paid anything. So technically maybe we ran some ads maybe in the second or third year, but it had to be, it 4 or 5 years into it.
But it was helping the sale of the book. So you were seeing some revenue, like, right.
Yeah, but like the audience, it also was just very gradual growth.
Right.
Like there was never any big viral moment.
So there was no moment
like
you can point to and like, that's the moment where this plane really took off.
No. It's just very, very gradual the whole
consistency.
Time. Consistency, dude.
Yeah.
Everybody wants those big spikes, but truly, if you just keep showing up and refuse to quit and continue to get better and devote yourself to the thing that excites you and that you care about, like then you're available for the miracle. And that doesn't mean that you're entitled to anything or that anything is guaranteed to occur, but it certainly can occur if you bail on it or you are unable to be consistent or show up for it or give it the respect that, it deserves.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Well, thanks for inviting me into it in the recent years.
Here's to 10 more years.
Yeah.
I still love it. I really do.
And
I'm excited for what's going to happen next year too. We got lots of cool plans.
It's really exciting. It feels like you're actually mainstreaming in a way. There's people who I know that listen to this that have come to you in recent years that I would never have put in one of your kind of like, you had one thing I always, when I think about the success of the Rich Roll podcast, you think of, well, you have these niche markets that were always kind of, you were organic, kind of you belong to the sober living,
the plant-based athlete,
and the endurance athlete. So we've talked about that before, but now you're getting people who aren't necessarily involved in any of those.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting almost 1 million on YouTube now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
I know,
that's nuts.
It is nuts.
Yeah,
I'm one of them.
Do you subscribe?
I'm
you
a
subscribe.
subscriber.
I'm glad
I'm
you
a subscriber.
So do you get notifications and alerts when you show up on the
No,
YouTube?
because I have an alert when my name is on the internet. I don't want to see it, so I have the opposite.
Okay.
Can I just point out one thing?
Yeah.
Before we get into listener questions.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about the murder of Eliza Fletcher in Memphis?
I do.
And we talked about kind of the danger that women face going out running, and I mean, at night, especially. Mm-hmm. And people asked, I think I got a couple messages. Are there any solutions? I think we maybe got a phone call about that.
Yeah.
And we didn't have, we tried our best, but we didn't really have anything. Well, this company called Nathan, I never heard of them before in my life.
Yeah. They make lots of hydration vests and camping gear and endurance running gear.
They have put together it's a night running hydration vest that includes a siren, like a high volume, high decibel siren that you can pull a ripcord on, and it will just explode with light and siren.
Wow!
If you're in any trouble whatsoever, that'll wake up the neighborhood. So it would be very hard to visualize someone hearing that and not running far
that's great.
Far
that
away.
Is an amazing solution.
Yeah, it's a solution. Mm-hmm. So Nathan, you're saying they're reputable. You know them. I'm sure they are. It's a great piece of equipment. If you added like a little pepper spray canister in one of these pockets, then you'd be fully loaded, I think, and it has
hydration.
Yeah.
And it's reflective gear for running at night.
Exactly.
So it's firing on all cylinders.
So congrats. And Nathan, Thanks for putting this together. I think women can really benefit from it. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, let's go to some listener questions.
Okay, here we go. Antonia in Petaluma.
Hey, Rich and Adam. I'm Antonia calling from Petaluma in Sonoma wine country. And over the past 2 or 3 years, I've been experiencing this increasingly persistent call to write a book. It's not fiction, not a memoir, but a book about a specific recurring theme in my life. So my question to you is, how does a lay woman like me, I have a business degree, I'm a winemaker and a yoga instructor with 0 English lit or creative writing background, go about writing a book? Where do I even start? I would like to write it myself and find a good editor, but have no idea how to go about that. I realize this is a rather broad question, but since you both have written successful books with varying degrees of previous experience, I'd really appreciate just a couple of nuggets of your wisdom. Thank you so much.
I love this question. Thank you, Antonia in Petaluma.
Yeah, Petaluma, great town.
Thank you, Antonia. Listen, the answer to your question, like how do you begin? Where do I even start? You start by starting. You have to get out of your head and outside of like all the baggage that's holding you back, all this storytelling, this narrative about how I don't know how to do it and I don't have a background in English and all of that. Just get out of your own way with all of these BS reasons and get out a pen and a piece of paper or open up your laptop and start typing. It feels like you want to know where it's going to lead you, or you want to have all of your questions resolved and answered before you begin. And that's just not how it works. The way it works is the universe conspires to support you when you put in the work and you show up for it. So begin by doing that, and something inside of you will come to life because you have this thing inside of you that's yearning to be expressed. And it's actually, here's a way to kind of reframe it. I think it's actually an act of violence against yourself to not express it. By repressing it, you are not in loving kindness to who you are. Clearly, you have something inside of you that's nagging you to be brought to life. And every day that goes by where you ignore it or you repress it or you look for an excuse to not actualize it is not in service to who you are. It is not in service to your authentic self that is telling you that you need to get this outside of yourself. And all the stuff you're worried about will get answered and resolved. There are people out there who can edit books, who can help you with structure, who can fact check. And, there's a lot of amazing books out there that are not by people who have some background in English literature. They're from people who have something to say. That's the most important thing when you're writing a book.
I never took a creative writing class.
Yeah, do you have something to say? The English part is easy. Like that has almost nothing to do with it. There are other people you can bring in to fix all of that kind of nonsense. But the having something to say, like really having something to say, that is the rare part and that is the hard part. So remember that and just get into action. Begin, make it a practice and make that practice non-negotiable. Create structure around that practice, and then protect that structure above everything else. Get it done. Ship the work, as Seth Godin would say.
Ship the work.
Ship the work. None of it is meaningful until you ship it, which is when you let go and you allow it to be in the world, right? Which is scary in its own right. We want to protect it. It's not perfect yet. Got to hold on to it. Once I let go of it, I can't control it anymore. I can't iterate on it. There's a sense of vulnerability that comes with shipping it. And you don't have to experience that fear or that vulnerability as long as you are continuing to tinker, right?
I've been tinkering with a novel a long time. I'm getting ready. I'm getting closer to shipping, but I'm still tinkering.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's scary because I haven't had success in the novels in the fiction space. So it's like terrifying.
Right. But you have written books. So how does all of this square with you? Like, what would you say to Antonia?
Well, I would say I'm going to give some practical feedback. I mean, you have some interesting books that you recommend for her to kind of take a look at. The Stephen Pressfield, who you talk about, Rick Rubin's new one, The Creative Act. I think.
Right. Well, let me just do that and then I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done many podcast episodes on the subject of kind of getting out of your own way and getting into the creative flow. Brian Koppelman is fantastic on this. So search the archive for that one. We talk a lot about the practice of journaling and the importance that Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, has played in his writing career. That book has been instrumental in my life. It's a book that I continue to return to this day. I've been doing The Artist's Way on and off since 1996. Yeah, since 1996. Stephen Pressfield, his book, The War of Art, and he has a couple other books in that vein, Turning Pro, etc. I did a podcast with Stephen, but his book, The War of Art, perhaps the best book to read on getting out of your head and getting things onto the page. Seth Godin, again, I did a podcast with him. It's not out yet, but he has a book called The Practice, which you should check out, similar to The War of Art. Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, is coming out in January. That book is fucking awesome. I'm going to buy hundreds of copies of that book and give it to everybody I know. It's really a beautiful book. It's a book that anybody who is interested in creative expression, whether you're a writer or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest in the world, I think would benefit from reading. And I would add to that list Chase Jarvis's book, Creative Calling. Chase is also a friend of the podcast, has been on the show before. So in terms of resources, I would suggest, Antonia, that you check out all of those, and then
I would add Big
put
Magic.
those aside and start. Oh, Big Magic also, great,
by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Big Magic energy in The Creative Act and Rick Rubin's book, and the podcast that I did with him that's going to come out in the new year. We talk about that a little bit, but yeah, great addition.
Yeah, I
to
would
that
add
list.
Big Magic.
The problem is, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Yes.
Sorry to
No,
keep
not at all.
Speaking over you.
No.
It's easy to then get immersed in all of these books and podcasts and say, well, I'm learning about being creative, when actually you're just using that as like a smoke shield to prevent you from actually doing the thing.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I mean, personally, I am not one of those writers that really meditates on the practice of the creative or on the creative process at all. I never have been. I've been much more, just do it, kind of like the consistency, just put in the hours and do it. But from the practical aspect of this, I think you're right. In terms of doing some preparation and reading on it would be helpful to her because it would decode it. And then I also think that, getting into some sort of journaling practice or just a practice would be helpful because you don't have the muscle built up yet and you need to get it. You need to get it working. So having said that, when you're talking about actual practicalities of how does a book come into this world, in nonfiction, you have the ability to write a book proposal. You don't have to write the whole book. You can write a sample chapter or two, figure out the marketing plan, figure out where this book fits in the marketplace, and all of it. You can easily Google book proposals and find some examples. And that's how, I don't know what the full percentage is, but a vast majority of nonfiction books are sold today, is they're sold via agents to publishers in book proposal format. And so you don't actually have to write the whole book to create a book. And eventually you do, but you don't have to get
But those are two, like it's a good distinction to bring up. I guess the question is, what is the purpose of this book? Is it to just write a book and be expressed in that, in that thing that you're trying to, wrap your head around? Or is it to be a published author? Like, that's a whole different thing because you're bringing commerce into this.
Right. And so I guess I was just putting that in because it's the only thing I could add that's more a little practice when you're thinking about this. And obviously she's visualizing a book.
Right.
A product.
And there's many ways of, like, you can self-publish, you can do the book proposal thing.
You can.
The book proposal thing is now, it's sort of like, how studios are only making superhero movies.
Right.
Like, now publishers are only making books from, people with giant Instagram accounts.
That's
and,
true.
It's like a lot of that kind of stuff gets played into it, but none of that should be an impediment to you creating the book that you want to create, because we're in an era in which those gatekeepers no longer are playing the role that they once did, and there is no impediment to distribution. You can create a self-published book and get it on Amazon and get it out in the world. And perhaps that's the best first way for you to become an author.
Yeah, I love it. We're moving right on to Rich. Not Rich Roll, but Rich in Rockfield.
Rockford.
Oh.
Rockford.
Rockford.
Yeah. Rich in Rockford.
Hello, Rich and Adam. This is Rich Toppy from Rockford, Illinois. I'm 71 years old, so I suspect I skew toward the older range of your listeners. I discovered your podcast about 5 years ago and enjoy the great interviews and information. Roll On is especially a treat when you share your banter. It's like hanging out with a couple of good friends. I've learned a lot, too. I can now say, hey, it's not age slowing me down. I'm just doing a lot of Zone 2 training. My question comes from listening to both of you so effectively share your reading experiences. Clearly, you both read volumes of information to be your best as an interviewer and a writer. How do you retain and then retrieve as much as you do? Certainly you prepare for specific topics and guests, but you often pull thoughts from books you've read long ago and then apply the ideas to a subject that has randomly popped up. I love to read, but wish I could retain much more than I do. Are you just lucky enough to have superlative memories, or are there some skills that you could share to help us all get more from our reading? I really appreciate all I've been getting from your program. So all the best from the Midwest. Thanks a lot. Bye.
What do you think, Adam?
I just think that he sounds like a swell fella.
Sounds like a nice gentleman.
I know. It's like the Midwest. It's like his Midwest, his you know what I mean? Like his manners and his laid back
and convivial.
Yes. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a great memory.
I assure you, my memory is anything but superlative.
Yes. But you are good. I mean, he's right. You are good at pulling tidbits of knowledge and things that you remember from either from your past or things that you've read, especially I think in your one-on-one guest stuff. Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice that he has pointed that out. Yeah. I would not have thought that I was somebody who would stand out in any way for that. I mean, I think to the extent that that is true, and I would challenge just how true it is, it's because this job requires homework. You're always doing homework. And a lot of the guests that I've had on the show are published authors. And I do my very best to read their books in their entirety, or at least as much as I possibly can before they're on the show. And if they have multiple books, to familiarize myself with the canon of their work. And I spend probably 8 to 10 hours of prep per guest, irrespective of whether they're an author or not. And I create an outline for each guest. So that forces me to take what I've read and distill it down into interesting kind of bullet points. I don't write out questions, but I write topic headings. And if it's somebody, if somebody's written like a nonfiction book, I'll kind of go through the structure of that book and extract from that themes and principles that I want to explore with the guest. And I think the process of not just writing, but then creating the outline, every little extra step cements the information and the knowledge contained in the book a little bit more deeply. And then I'll review the outline and I'll refine the outline and then I'll make extra notes. So all of those little things I think really help, anchor whatever I've learned in the memory bank. And I don't know how long it stays. Like, sometimes I don't remember anything about what we talked about or what that book said. For books that are super meaningful to me, it seems easy for them to remain in my conscious awareness. Other books, not so much. And I think it goes to understanding how you learn. Everybody learns differently. Like I know that often I'll consume a book as an audiobook. I'll go out on a Saturday morning for a long bike ride and I'll listen to half of an audiobook. But hearing it, I don't retain it nearly as well as I do when I read it. Like I'm a visual learner.
That's
so
right.
Then I have to go to the printed book and kind of go through it and make notes. And in the typing and in the looking at my computer or in, the pieces of paper, like something about my visual cortex or whatever gets activated that helps me learn better than hearing. And I'm sure other people are the other way around. So I think it's a piece of self-understanding and then developing practices to kind of cement what's important for you to learn. And now there are all of these resources. You could read a book. I know what it's like to read a book kind of casually and then be like, I have no idea. I can't remember anything from that book.
Right.
But you can go to Blinkist or you can find summaries online, and just doing little refreshers brings a lot of that stuff back. And it's helpful because it's easy to read like a really long book and you've read so much that you lose the forest for the trees, right? And you kind of need a synopsis or a summary to like remind you, oh, here's what's important. Here are the primary tiers, and here's the kind of scaffolding upon which to hang all of these interesting ideas. And revisiting that, I think with some regularity helps kind of, again, with that long-term memory piece of really anchoring it. And then thinking about it, like, how does it apply to your life also in terms of problem solving? At least in the kind of nonfiction space.
It's interesting. I don't think I have great memory or can pull pieces of writing, or I'm not the guy that toasts, and recites Chaucer.
Yeah. Or you have friends, they remember quotes from movies and they remember everything about what a movie was about that they saw 15 years ago. I'm definitely not that guy.
And I do it even, I have a better memory for movies sometimes than books, but there's times when I'm writing a story and I'm like deep diving into material and I'm reading a lot about it. And then I write this piece. And then as soon as it's done and it's published, if you ask me about it like 3 weeks later, I would sound like it wasn't me that wrote it. I also have that where it just kind of goes away.
I have that with the podcast. People are like, remember when, you and so-and-so said that thing and you talked about that thing? I was like, no, I have no memory of that.
Yeah. But I read as much as I ever did, maybe more so. I'm putting books away a lot quicker. I've got I'm reading fiction and nonfiction simultaneously now. I used to kind of stick with a book and I'd finish it no matter what. And so that would block me from reading more books because sometimes I'd be in a book that's dry or that I'm not connecting to. And I'm
just because you started a book doesn't mean you have to finish it.
Right. So now I give myself permission to not finish it. And so because of that, I'm reading more. And I am going back between fiction and nonfiction. I used to think when I'm writing nonfiction, I'm going to read fiction. When I'm writing fiction, I'm going to read nonfiction. And I just don't have those kinds of guardrails at all anymore. They're just excuses. And to be quite honest, there's so much content out there, TV content and like audio content. There's so much of it. I find myself like taking up shelter in books. You know, like I can't take
How can you read a book though when White Lotus is back, Adam?
Well, I'm on White Lotus. I'm on that. But you know what I mean? It's like, and so I'm reading more than ever. And so, and some books do stay with you, right, for long ways. And so often I think if you're saying that I brought it up, it's probably because I bring up the same like 5 books. But one recommendation is Dwight Garner, who is a literary critic at New York Times. We've talked about him on this podcast, I think, before. And he has something called Garner's Quotations that just came out not too long ago, maybe a year ago. And he is one of those that can pull a quote for anything. Like he can pull a quote out of left field for any occasion.
His own quotes or just quotes of things that other
stellar
people
quotes
have said.
from like luminaries. And then another person, Kelton Reed, who has the Writer Files, a podcast host, good friend of mine. He does the same thing. He's able to put quotes out there, and you'll see it on his Instagram or the Writer Files. And so they're really good at that. I think I just read as much as I can and hope to retain it, but I don't have any strategies for you.
Yeah. So you didn't answer his question at all.
I have no strategies.
Keep reading. Read more. All right.
But I appreciate the question.
Yeah.
It's nice. I think he's talking to you. You're good at that. You are good at that.
It's nice that you appreciate the question.
Listen, man, you're good at that. You happen to be good at it.
Yeah, but it's sort of like there's a little bit of, like you cram for a test.
Yeah.
So you know it all. So I'm like fully dialed when I'm doing the podcast. Like how long does that remain? Also, when you get older, like the hard drive's full, dude. Like everything that comes in, something else has, like I'll notice like, I can't quite, like we couldn't remember Brendan Gleeson's name.
No.
Right? Like that's a name that like maybe 10 years ago I would have had no problem recalling because the hard drive is it's crammed, right?
It's dusty.
Yeah. You got to like, if I'm taking in some bullshit, I got to get rid of something else.
Right. That's why take in less, read more.
There you go.
I have one for you, though. One last thing that we could offer. Because, I know you talk about David Epstein's book, Range.
I do talk. That's one that,
and so that
lives
kind
with
of fits here because, like, I think that we both have wide interests. And because of that, we're going to read from a wide, range of material. And so it might seem like we're like, we know more, that idea of having a range of interests might feed into this in a way. Like you have memories from different parts of your kind of personality or you're the dashboard that you're seeing the world through. And so that might help actually kind of sounding like you have a little bit more handle on things than you really do.
It's all about like the illusion of making it seem like I'm better at stuff than I actually am.
Great.
There you go.
Good. I hope this is revealing.
Yeah. Let's get to this last question.
Let's land
and get
this
out of
plane.
Here. Yeah.
We're going to Zach up in I don't know, is he in Spokane? He's in Eastern Washington.
Eastern Washington.
Hey, Rich and Adam. My name's Zach Smith. I'm from Eastern Washington. I'm around 27 years old. And I'm a plant-based runner studying to become a dietitian, both things inspired by your podcast. Currently, I am training for the Mesa Marathon, and the good news is, with that Zone 2 approach, I am getting faster. But I'm actually becoming scared of achieving my goal of qualifying for Boston. I feel like I'm getting hooked on getting faster as a runner and losing touch with the broader joy of the sport at only 3 years into my running journey. So I was hoping to hear you and Adam speak to why we pull ourselves away from family and friends to pursue these efforts, and how motivations for these efforts change across time. And if you have any past podcast guests who speak to this that you'd recommend returning to, I'd love to hear them. Thank you for your time.
It's cool. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Zach. To the point or to the question of speaking to why we pull ourselves away from family and friends to pursue these efforts and how motivations for these efforts change across time.
I don't know what you're talking about, Zach.
I can't.
That doesn't happen. I never do that.
Right. But I don't know what is animating Zach. Like, I don't know what his motivation is. It sounds like it's germinating from some kind of performance goal that he has, qualifying for Boston, etc. I think it's interesting that he has enough self-awareness to realize he's getting hooked on the performance aspect of it, and this is draining some of the joy out of the sport at only 3 years into this journey. And that self-awareness is powerful to the extent that you channel it into some kind of behavior modification. So I think in your case, there's some easy fixes. Understanding that you have this goal, you want to qualify for Boston, but you're also afraid because you're getting so into the performance piece that it's not as fun as it used to be, or it's not as joyous as when you began. So let's cure that by incorporating into your training routine some fun runs where you don't have the Garmin on, you take off the heart rate monitor, you forget about the log or whatever, sort of purpose of the training is that day, and you just go get lost in the woods, or you go out with friends and you have a good time. The joy is the sustainable energy that will keep you in the sport, for many years to come. But if you lose touch with that, you will burn out, and you may achieve your goal and all of that, but that goal won't be as joyous or as meaningful as it could be if you're able to find a way to maintain connection with whatever it is about running that provided that sense of joy to begin with.
That's a great answer, because I know Davey talked about it before going to New York, that he wants to take a break from running after New York. And April said the same thing. She had this goal of sub 145 for the half marathon. And she was like the same thing. It's like, I'm ready to stop running for a while. And so interesting. And I'm sure they both were on these training programs, and they were on performance kind of based.
Your life gets very regimented.
Right. So that's it. I love that idea, because, the other day I hadn't been able to get out because I've been working and just can't run. And I went out for a swim, and I forgot my Garmin at home. And it was my most fun swim I've had in so long.
At first you're like, you feel naked. You're like, does this even count? Did I even do it?
Right.
Which is weird.
And it's my furthest swim I've done in the ocean since, I did the 5K swim a couple years ago. So it's like, maybe 3 years ago. So it was great. And so that's a great piece of advice. I think in terms of pulling yourself away from family and friends, I wouldn't put you're 27. I wouldn't put that guilt on you, or maybe you're feeling a little FOMO because you got a lot of young people and friends that are like having a lot of fun at night, and you have to get some sleep because you're running early in the morning. Maybe that's where that's coming from. I personally think that we are called to escape, and it's okay. Like, I think the beauty of escape is a wonderful thing. I've lived it many times. As a Jew, it's in our nature. But all seriousness, like the idea of dropping out and going for a long travel, or getting out in the ocean and forgetting everything for 2 hours, or going for a long run, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I wouldn't feel bad about that, pulling yourself away. What I do now is kind of take bite-sized moments like that if I can. It's the only time I'm not either working or spending time kind of with the family and all that. We need that, especially Americans in the individualist society that we are in. I find myself needing that time, and it's the best way for me to take time that's also fueling my well-being, which only helps me work harder and be better with my family. So all that kind of stuff, I don't look at it as pulling myself away. I look at it as needed time to recharge. And so that's the only thing I would say to the question that I disagree with. But I think your point to like bringing the joy back is really good.
I mean, I think rather than framing it as an escape versus being plugged in, think of it as nourishment versus depletion. Like, are you being nourished by these training sessions, or are they depleting you? If you're training for a hardcore goal, you're going to get depleted. Like, you're going to be pushed and challenged, and that's okay. That's part of the whole deal, right? And there's something to be gleaned and learned about yourself from that experience. And this is part of why we sign up to do hard things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, in the long run, it has to be more nourishing than depleting. And whether that means you take breaks or you find ways to build into whatever it is that you're pursuing that nourishment piece, be it through community or through a relaxation of the pressure that you're putting on yourself, et cetera, getting immersed in nature, or just finding a way to make it fun, gamifying it somehow. That's critical, even if you might in the micro feel like it's moving you away from the goal that you're seeking because it's not part of the training program, right? Ultimately, it's going to, build longevity by creating that, deeper kind of emotional connection with this thing.
And your motivations for these efforts change. It's going to change. You're going to evolve. You're going to grow. You're going to have different responsibilities and desires as they come through. It's like we said earlier, the seasonal aspect of living. That's just the way it is. And so that we embrace that. We embrace that these motivations are going to change, that we're going to try to find a new way to approach the same thing that's been good for us. And that's the goal. But then if you have to kind of press pause, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Like if you need to look at it as a season, maybe look at how, tennis players take 6 weeks off at the end of the year, or runners take 4 weeks off. Maybe you need to take a break so that you can come back fresh. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And finally, to kind of round this out, the part of the question was whether there's a past podcast guest who speaks to this. I would suggest my conversation with Brad Stulberg and his book, The Practice of Groundedness. Brad's pretty great on this very subject matter. He's also a great follow on Twitter, where he sort of microblogs on Twitter and talks a lot about this kind of thing. So
he's great. I've got him on Instagram now, I believe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But did you see Kipchoge recommended 2 books? He recommended Atomic Habits by James Clear, friend of the pod.
Yes.
And he recommended Brad Stulberg's Practice of Groundedness.
Oh, really?
How about that? Like, what a cool, like, it's one thing, like, James Clear sold, I don't know, 10 million books.
Right,
I mean, that book is crazy, right?
God.
But for Brad, like, very cool for him.
It's very cool
that the GOAT is like, read this book.
Did Kipchoge run, or was he just on the outskirts of the race? Did he run the race?
You mean ever? Does he just float above the road when he runs these
run
marathons?
in New York?
In New York? No.
Okay.
No. He did a shakeout run, though. I know Davey did.
Right, because I knew he was there, so I didn't know if he was running the race or not.
No, I don't think he ran the race. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right, let's get out of here. Are we done?
Yeah, dude, we're done. And I feel still 50. Do you still feel 56?
56. What does that mean? How am I supposed to feel at 56?
I don't know, man. All I know is I had a PRP injection. Have you had one of those?
I had that for my back on one occasion.
I mean, that hurts like a motherfucker.
It's no joke. It's no joke.
My eyes were watering for like 3 hours. I thought I was going to go back and get some work done. I was literally on the couch trying to read with like eyes watering. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty funny.
Yeah. Tales from the fifth decade. All right. Listen, if you have a question you want us to talk about, and who knows when we're going to do a roll on again, but anyway, leave us a message.
Wait,
the number to do
are you
that.
Firing me?
No, I don't know when we're doing roll on again.
Is this Twitter?
You're not? No. Yes. All hands on deck. I have some new policies.
You might get fired, but you could get called back into work next week.
I'm going to fire you, but I'm going to call you. Yeah, and plead with you to come back.
Yeah.
Leave us a voicemail at 424-235-4626. And that's it. Any parting thoughts?
No, that was, thank you. Thank you for the time today.
Yeah, thank you. Super fun. Let's do it. Should we do it again?
Let's do it one more time before the end of the year. What do you think, people?
Maybe. We'll see. All right. Peace.
Namaste.